Hi, I'm Joe Saunders with Miniature Landscape Hobbies, and in this episode, we're going to talk about my secret weapon. A product so essential that if you're not using it now, you can't afford to be without it. Imagine what the ultimate hobby product would be. Something that enhances every aspect of your builds. Something so essential and useful that once you start using it, you would go to great lengths to make sure you always had it on hand. I think most model builders know about the holy trinity of tools: the craft knife, the sprue cutters, and the brush. This product we're talking about, though, should be able to join this list as number 4. What would the qualities of this thing be? Well, it would be adhesive to start. So to complement this, it would have to be quick drying, I suppose. And since glues come in both heavy and light body style, it should be able to be both firm and tacky, or runny and fast flowing, at your command. What else? Well, model supplies like balsa, insulation foam, and plastics can be brittle, so this mystical product would need to be able to lend these things strength. It should be able to help so that when we're wargaming and the dice are flying, your scenery survives unscathed. If it can protect your building materials from the corrosive spray propellants and oil-based paints we use at the same time, then that would be a plus as well. Of course, that would require the product to be sticky, but also self-leveling, like a high-quality varnish. And since this stuff is used for coating our work, then it would not hurt if it could function as a primer too. This would mean that it would need to be porous to take paint and be able to be spread by brush. That's not too much to ask.
Is it?
This is a steep list now, but let's assign one more property to this item, just for fun. Let's make it good for creating water effects too. Because, why not? The product should look like still water when dry, but it should also be firm. That would be really cool. But this does mean the product would have to be super glossy. Lastly, if a product really did have all these wonderful properties, it would be so useful you would need to have it available in large quantities for a low price. Surely, though, something in our hobby arsenal can't be fast drying, both heavy and light body, self-leveling, porous, brushable, glossy, common, plentiful, and cheap, all at the same time, right?
Right? Wrong.
I hear you say, Joe, this is just crazy talk. Such a mythical product can't possibly exist. But it does. It's called Mod Podge, and it's in your local Walmart or dollar store right now. What is Mod Podge? It kind of looks like white glue, but it's way gooder. Mod Podge is PVA based, like other glues, but it has additives that make it work as a sealant and a varnish. It can also come in matte, satin, and gloss. It's a little more expensive than regular craft glue, but craft glue's already super cheap. Mod Podge seems to be less common when used by wargamers. I'm not really sure why though. It is really common for dollhouse preserving flowers, making collages, and model train layouts. This means it's found in the basic art sections of dollar stores, department stores, and craft shops. Sitting at my desk in rural Ontario, if I wanted a new bottle of Mod Podge, I could have it from 2 different stores, both about 5 minutes from here. On the other hand, if I wanted products more specific to the art of building a miniature, say something like static grass, I would have to drive for at least an hour. Because Mod Podge is so essential to some crafters, you can get it in 2-ounce, 32-ounce, and 64-ounce bottles. Between my commission builds, Flames of War and Black Powder models, and also Mitchell's HO scale terrain layout, we go through at least 12 ounces a week. So I always have lots of spare bottles around. So we know that it's awesome for a million uses and how to get it. In the rest of this video, I'll show you a few ways you can use Mod Podge to enhance your own model builds. Oh, keep in mind, these are only some of my favorite ways to use Mod Podge. If you can think of it, Mod Podge can probably do it. Do you need custom diorama quality terrain made for one of your projects? My contact information is in the video description. The number one use I have for Mod Podge is for basing. This method can be used on both model bases and on terrain. Brushing undiluted Mod Podge onto the area of the base where you want the earth to go should give you a very firm, tacky surface that you can sprinkle or dip in sand or other grit. I often help this by adding black acrylic paint to the mix. Over this, you can apply a little rubbing alcohol to reduce the surface tension, and then while everything is still wet, follow up with another coat of Mod Podge. Remember how I mentioned you can change the body of Mod Podge? Just add about 7 parts of water to 2 parts Mod Podge and 1 part rubbing alcohol, and it'll flow in the narrow cracks and spaces wherever you want it on your build. I find a pipette is the best tool for this job. When it's all dry, it'll form an unbelievably strong bond, stronger than white glue. Also, this mixture will dry faster. I can usually get a whole base treated with Mod Podge to dry and be ready for dry brushing in about 2 to 4 hours. White glue takes overnight, at least. Remember earlier when I alluded to the fact that Mod Podge can help with reinforcing your builds? When it dries, it almost laminates the surface, providing a coating stronger than regular varnishes that can be quite helpful on delicate substances. Here I am building the roof of a building with foam shingles. Foam shingles are great to work with, but, as always, anything made of insulation foam is delicate. They can be chipped and dented. This is easily solved though. Go ahead and add 6 parts water to 4 parts Mod Podge and brush it onto the foam. When it's dried, it will be significantly stronger and can handle the rigors of gameplay, transport, or general handling. Previously we discussed adding black acrylic paint to the Mod Podge mix. If you do this before you give your model a coat to strengthen it, it'll also effectively prime the model at the same time. Mod Podge self-levels, so it'll not bead on the surface of what you're building, and when it dries, it's porous enough to make the paint on top of it stick, though I always recommend the matte version for this. Have you ever melted one of your projects? Chances are you've taken spray paint to foam or other certain plastics in the past and accidentally turned your work into a pile of goo. I know I have. But you guessed it. By now you've probably figured out, Mod Podge is the defense against this. Once you've coated your work, any sprays will not react with the Mod Podge, keeping the underlying layers of foam or whatever else you're using safe. This way you can rely on the speed and utility of spray paints when you would often have to resort to a brush instead. Gloss Mod Podge makes really convincing water. Now don't get me wrong, poured resins and specific water products are better. But Mod Podge is a fraction of the price, a lot easier to work with, and dries faster. Just build a cardboard dam in the area where you want it, spread the Mod Podge or pour it thickly, and let it dry. You can dilute it with a little water to help it flow if you want. For this reason, I keep Gloss Mod Podge on hand. It works exceptionally well on ditches and small water features. It's also fine for rivers. For deep or open water, there are other products. But hey, Mod Podge can't be good at everything, right?
Wrong.
So there you have it. My secret weapon is Mod Podge. A cheap, common, and absolutely indispensable product for model building. If you already know about the wonders of this magical substance, then I hope I gave you some new ideas on how to use it. If you've not used Mod Podge before, go get some. Right now. I'm serious. Oh, maybe watch the end of the video first. Miniature Landscape Hobbies is your source for miniature, terrain building, and diorama content, and we can't do it without your support. We want to build a community to ensure that the wonderful art of building a miniature is accessible to everybody. To participate, please consider joining on Patreon. For $4 a month, our Patreon members benefit from 10% off at Joe Saunders Terrain in the Etsy store, 5% off paints and hobby supplies at Torchlight Games, free access to STL files, a mention in our credits, and early access to our videos. Please check it out and consider joining. That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. Please remember to subscribe, press the bell button so you get immediate notification on our videos, and until next time, remember to keep building life in miniature.